I'm Rob.
And I'm Nate.
And welcome back to Rob and Nate Record a Podcast. This is the start of our Ron Howard theme month.
You know, I gotta say that I am gung-ho for this month. It's gonna be a splash.
Wow. I'm glad to hear it. So for our Ron Howard theme month, we thought we would cover kind of a diverse range of his.
Now, this month's choice comes from the beautiful mind of Rob.
Well,
and
Ron Howard
basically
is a talented...
selected the... And Ron Howard is talented.
Yeah.
But Ron Howard is not your John Ford. He's not your Billy Wilder. He is a journeyman director. He doesn't have a particular style. He doesn't have, generally speaking, themes that he comes to all the time. He's more like Mervyn LeRoy or Michael Curtiz.
I think he does kind of have some of those, and that's part of why we selected some of the movies we did this month. For reference, we're starting out tonight with Backdraft. This is our episode on the 1991 release Backdraft, and then we're going to do the Mel Gibson starring Ransom, and then we're going to do Rush, which I also know you've never seen, and then end with his most recent Hillbilly Elegy.
I've seen none of the films we're going to be watching this month.
Really?
Yep.
Well, I've seen half of the films we're watching this month. So I've seen this one and I've seen Rush before.
I looked through the directorial filmography of Ron Howard. There was, I want to say, 27 films in it, and I had seen 13 of them.
Yeah. Which, do you recall any of the specifics? Obviously, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, Frost Nixon.
I've seen Splash, Willow, now Backdraft, Far and Away, Apollo 13, The Grinch Stole Christmas, A Beautiful Mind, The Missing, Cinderella Man, The Da Vinci Code, Frost Nixon, Angels and Demons, Solo, A Star Wars Story, and Inferno.
Which one of those would you say is your favorite Ron Howard film?
Apollo 13, probably?
Yeah.
Safe bet.
I'm a big fan of that one.
Of course, Ron Howard was the rare child actor turned
successful,
super
everything
successful
he does.
Director, producer.
Yeah.
Of course, known from The Andy Griffith Show and Happy Days, and his daughter Bryce Dallas is a popular actress.
Yeah. His brother is a working actor.
Yeah, his brother is his brother.
Yeah.
And his father Rance also was an actor.
Oh yeah. Nice. So this was the first time you've seen this movie.
Mm-hmm.
What are your first impressions?
Well, I've been aware of this movie since around the time it came out. It was a big deal when it came out in 1991. And I thought I knew the twist of this movie, but it turns out I did not.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised, and I was going to ask, when did you see the villain coming?
Well, it
is telegraphed.
It's pretty telegraphed. At least the misdirect is.
Yeah.
Like the misdirect, it's almost like it couldn't have been that because it would have been too obvious.
Well, and if you are familiar with the movie, you know the real villain is telegraphed fairly heavily.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll bet there is subtle things that you miss out on, because I didn't pick up on it until they basically said, this is the guy who's been doing it.
Until he sees the print of the plug on his back in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, quick plot overview. The simple synopsis is two Chicago firefighter brothers who don't get along have to work together while a dangerous arsonist is on the loose. So this movie stars Kurt Russell as Stephen McCaffrey, William Baldwin as Brian McCaffrey, that's our two brothers. Robert De Niro is Donald Ramgale, who is a arson investigator for the fire department.
City of Chicago.
Donald Sutherland plays an former arsonist, Ronald Bartell. You have Jeniffer Jason Leigh playing Jennifer Vatkus.
William's love interest.
Yeah. Scott Glen plays our villain, John Adcox.
Not Lance Reddick.
Yeah. And then you have Rebecca
De
Mornay, who plays the wife of Mr. McCaffrey.
Kurt Russell's character.
Yeah, and her name is Helen. Her character name is Helen McCaffrey.
We have J.T. Walsh as the alderman.
Yeah, who is also a quasi-villain. And a personal favorite of mine, Jack McGee, who plays Schmidt in this movie. He's probably better known for things like Rescue Me, which was a TV show on FX.
Also about
and a few other
firefighting.
things. Yeah. He plays a firefighter a lot. The only other person I was going to mention was Jason Gedrick, who plays Tim Krasinski, who more people nowadays would probably know as the villain in the first season of Bosch. And he is a working actor. He's also been on Major Crimes and a bunch of other TV shows and things of that nature. A solid cast, but you have... The movie opens with the McCaffrey brothers at the firehouse where their father works.
Back in 1971.
Yeah, and Brian has never gone on a fire with his father and gets selected to go with them as they go to a fire. But it's an arson, and his father saves another firefighter but is killed in the process. Brian is photographed holding his father's helmet, and it becomes a collectible Time magazine cover.
Life magazine cover, and it becomes a Pulitzer Prize winner. And of course, I'd not seen this before. I didn't know that plot element. But as soon as they showed the cameraman taking the picture of the little boy holding his dead father's fire helmet, I'm like, that guy's getting some awards.
Yeah.
Turns out he got a Pulitzer. And a Life cover.
Well, fairly predictably, both McCaffrey brothers become firefighters at different times, but they both become firefighters. And there's an arsonist who is setting backdraft fires that are killing people off. It's when a fire nearly burns itself out, and because it consumes all the oxygen, as soon as it gets oxygen, it basically explodes. So that's the underlying premise of this movie, and then we go into the fires and them trying to figure out. Eventually, Brian McCaffrey goes to work with Robert De Niro's character, Donald Rimgale, investigating these arsons, trying to figure out who's setting them. They connect it to an alderman.
And Walsh.
Yeah. And he and his friends were closing down firehouses and making money off of it, but it resulted in the death of firefighters.
And what did they close down these firehouses to turn them into?
Community centers.
Because that is where the big capitalist bucks are, community centers.
For an alderman, possibly, yeah. They get their hooks in.
They're bastions of profit, community centers.
Yeah, so what else were your first impressions on this?
Well, you heard me cracking wise.
But that's inconsistent. Sometimes you do the Mystery Science Theater treatment and you enjoy a film, and sometimes you do the Mystery Science Theater treatment and you dislike a film very heavily.
You'll notice that the jokes went down a lot in the last roughly a fourth.
Uh-huh.
Because it was honestly the last roughly a fourth before this film really got me.
Well, yeah.
Like
that's where the action really
that
picks
last
up.
Fire sequence at the fire at the chemical plant, especially for the period, like that's spectacular, and that's all practical effects.
Yeah, exactly. There's no CG. That's all.
You're not going to see something like that again.
Probably not. No. I mean, Michael Bay might try it, but there would be no way you would have stuntmen anywhere near that, close to it anymore. I mean, those guys were right in amongst it. One thing you probably didn't notice. Let me make sure I get this right, because I shut off the credits before it would have gotten to this. Kurt Russell, Kevin Casey, Scott Glen, and William Baldwin did a lot of their own stunts, and stunt coordinator Walter Scott was so impressed by their performances, he listed them in the credits as stunt performers.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, just very hands-on, very direct. I mean, you'll think back to 1991. That was gutsy to do it like that. I mean, I want to make sure we're giving Ron Howard credit. I mean, that really was gutsy, and that would have been a very technical shoot and very difficult to do. So, what other thoughts do you have?
Well, I was, that last fourth is something I was kind of bored throughout much of this movie. I thought it was dull. I thought it was pretty predictable. Again, I thought I knew that the end reveal was going to be that the older brother was setting these fires because he wanted to execute these people that were involved in the scheme to shut down the other firehouses, which caused firemen to die as a consequence of that. Somehow that was never super
because they didn't have the appropriate backup.
Oh yeah, that was the backup.
Like when they needed another fire truck, it took too long to get there, and they either put their own lives at risk or didn't rescue people. So, a common firefighter complaint. Staffing levels. Yeah, you're not giving me very much here. I like this film. I remember it.
When did you first see this film?
It was sometime in the 90s. It probably would have been, I mean, I didn't see it in theaters, so it was probably right after its release to VHS, or maybe it was DVD at that point. That was still VHS days, right?
No, this is 91 release, so.
Yeah. So it was probably right after its release to VHS, and I also remember it was a big deal when this got aired on TV for the first time. And I remember watching it on TV. So I watched it quite a few times through the 90s, probably at least
What do you
5 to
like
10
about
times.
it?
The suspense, I thought that it was suspenseful. I liked the twist, how it seemed to be setting you up, but at the same time, the twist of Scott Glen, John Adcox being the villain was well done. It builds tension. I liked the interaction between Robert De Niro and William Baldwin as they try and work this out. At the time, I was a little bit more impressed by the relationship between Kurt Russell and William Baldwin, Stephen McCaffrey and Brian McCaffrey. Now it seems a little forced, a little obvious, the way they were building it.
You try to separate, when you can, separate yourself from all the years that have gone by from when a film was released. Try to put yourself into the place at the time, and sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. And this is one where I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, I do have a sense that this would have been a different viewing experience in 1991.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I've seen these kind of relationship things done better. I've seen, again, the fire effects are really good. I don't think I've seen fire effects better than this. So, I mean, that's something very much in the movie's favor. But the whole kind of slow, melodramatic arc and the conspiracy of the people trying to make money off of...
And the overplaying of the music.
The overplaying of the music. I mean, Hans Zimmer's score is not... It's a very early 90s score. The last 5 minutes or so of the film...
There's music
the
constantly.
The schlock of the conventions, the just... We are unashamedly trying to just emotionally manipulate you to get an emotional reaction, and it
including
did the opposite.
The faint on the death of Kurt Russell's character. Where you expected it earlier, and then they held on just to build a little more drama.
Yeah. Well, and the scene, the funeral, and the John Kennedy thing at the end with the little boy, with Kurt Russell's boy. It's just like, man.
Well, you could tell that there's a few different shots in this movie where you're like, man, Ron Howard really likes to play that child actor thing, for the dramatic effect.
Well, the early scene where we see Brian as a boy and the actor they've cast freaking looks like Opie.
Yeah.
I mean, like he basically cast who looks like me, because this is my surrogate.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to argue with the execution in the end, especially given a lot of the technical elements of this. I mean, I can't imagine how you would shoot this differently to cut it better with all of the fire effects built into it. And especially with the proximity that the actors need to be in.
On a technical level, this is very well done. It's a very well executed mediocre movie.
Okay. This was nominated for 3 Oscars. Are you familiar with...
I'm going to say Best Special Effects.
Okay.
And score, maybe?
So Best Effects, Sound Effects Editing.
Okay, yeah.
Best Effects, Visual Effects.
Uh-huh.
And then Best Sound.
Best Sound. Okay, yeah. It's a technical awards, because that's where this film excelled.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It did not win any of those awards, but those were the 3 Oscars that it was nominated for.
It was quite a successful film, a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big budget film.
$40 million budget. It made $152.4 million at the box office.
Worldwide gross, yeah.
Worldwide gross.
Its domestic gross was, in the box office, was just under $78 million. So it made money domestically and foreignly. And in the foreign market, this guaranteed had to make money on VHS, and then rentals, and then the TV deals.
I don't know if you remember, when you first saw it on TV, was it on a network or was it on cable?
It was on the network.
Because this seems like the kind of thing back in the day that a network would spend a bunch of money for their Sunday night movie because they knew it would bring in a huge audience.
I want to say it was around 94 or 95 that it aired on a network. It was the first time it aired on TV, and it aired on a network. And then it seemed like it aired a whole bunch.
That's something you're never going to see again, is a theatrical film getting its television debut on a Sunday night at the movies.
In some ways, I kind of miss that element of that. That used to especially get that through ABC and the Disney property.
Yeah.
But
it's just not worth it for the networks to spend that kind of money anymore.
You would think they could get it for maybe not quite as much money now because of the availability of options.
Yeah, and because
but it would draw so many people.
Generally owned by big studios.
Yeah.
Or by companies that own big studios.
Well, I mean, any Universal release would go to...
NBC.
Yeah. So.
And Paramount to CBS, and of course Disney to
yeah.
NBC.
But now
Fox
they're all
to-
pushing them all
no,
to their own
Fox isn't even
streaming
on Fox
services. But
There's an interesting divide, if we want to go into critical,
sure,
between the critics and the average Joes, or the Metacritics. Because this film's Rotten Tomatoes rating is 74%, while its Metacritic is a mere 38%.
yeah. I'm showing the same Metacritic, but on IMDb it doesn't get quite as high of a rating. Its aggregate score on IMDb is just 6.7 stars. I expected it to be a little bit higher, but not substantially.
Even though this was a big film at the time, I don't think this is a film that people revisit. Like, if you were born after 1991, I don't think you've seen this film, by and large.
I don't know that I could disagree with you, but
It's not like a classic. Like, I don't know of anybody who's big sentimental attachment to this film.
I have seen this in the 2000s. I'm not sure that I've seen it past maybe 2006 or something like that. I mean, it's probably... I mean, I know it's been over a decade since I've seen it.
It's like a fire. It burned brightly and then it went out.
Wow. A lot of the extras in this movie are actual Chicago firefighters. They put out a casting call to the fire department prior to starting the filming of the film. And then that funeral procession, most of the people in that were suburban firefighters that participated in that, so they could have a lot of bodies for that. And then, talking about technicality, to draw audiences into the intensity of a real fire, a cameraman was outfitted with a fireproof suit and wandered through the flames with handheld cameras. Casting things. If you had to pick an alternate casting for the role of Brian McCaffrey,
I think you were hinting at things, and I might have inadvertently stumbled on this.
Yeah, did you? Go ahead.
Refresh me.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt.
They were looking at casting him for it. He lost out on the role of Brian McCaffrey to William Baldwin, who then had to be released from his contract to play the small part of J.D. in Thelma and Louise that was also released in 1991, and that was recast with Brad Pitt instead.
Oh, they did a switchies.
Yeah. Yeah, you got much more else to add on this?
No.
How would you rate this film?
I am on the cusp between 2 and 2.5 stars. I think I'm going to give it 2.
Yeah?
I'm going to give it 5 on the 10-star scale.
Wow, that's a little bit lower than I expected. I would actually give this the 2.5 on the 4-star scale. I don't think it really warrants a 3. You know how I dislike giving the half stars, but 2 stars seems a little too low. And I would probably give this around 7 stars on the 10-star scale.
I could see me going to 2.5 and 6. It's really kind of in between.
I mean, it's not an unenjoyable film.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm ever going to see it again. I don't think I care to see it again. I don't think it really had anything of heft that it added to my cinematic experiences other than that fire sequence at the end.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
which has been
mediocre.
Replicated in other movies. Ladder 49 has a similar sequence. I mean, not as much like the rupturing things, but it has the warehouse fire scene. You know, things of that nature.
We were joking a little bit about a sequel to this film.
There is a sequel
to this film.
There is a Backdraft 2.
Backdraft 2. The only cast carryover is Donald Sutherland playing that arsonist again. And I know nothing about this film, but I want it to be about that little kid at the Holyda's dad's at the end. I want it to be the 3rd generation of McCafferty's.
I know I've seen Backdraft 2, but it's been a long time, and I remember basically nothing about it, so, yeah.
Well, that's only like a 2019 release.
Is it really?
Yeah, though Ron Howard himself actually did a kind of sequel to this many years later.
Did he?
Yeah, Inferno.
Wow. Wow. Wait, you've seen Angels and Demons, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Isn't that a Ron Howard?
Yeah. All the
you didn't
Dan
list
Brown,
those in your...
all the Angels and Demons and Da Vinci Code.
I didn't catch that when you listed your Ron Howard titles, so... Yeah, anything else to add on this one?
That is all I have to say.
Come on, you had
that.
Jokes all day, come on.
I know, it's like, I was like, that. He made a movie called The Missing. Can I work The Missing into some kind of a thing? No, I couldn't.
Well, it was funny because you were cracking Ron Howard jokes, and I made a Kurt Russell joke, and it sat there for like 20 seconds before.
Like, Kurt Russell's acting is just overboard in this. I'm like, really? You think so? Oh!
All right. Well, I'm Rob.
And I'm Nate.
And this is Rob and Nate Record a Podcast. You were cracking jokes all night.
I was.
And then suddenly...
I know.
Crickets.
It worked its way out of my system.
Or should I say cicadas?
Cicadas.
Yeah.
They're the in chirping bug right now.
Yeah. You remember those from, yeah?
Vaguely, yeah.
You don't remember it very well?
A little bit.
You don't remember being kept up at night by them?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah. Well, granted, I was the one with sleeping problems.
What I remember is fireflies hitting windshields and how it,
and it would
glow
streak
for a minute.
Yeah.
And then at certain theaters, they would have someone run down the aisle screaming fire.
I might have to edit that.
But
joke.
only if it were crowded.
Yeah. Wow.
3, 2, 1.
That was a dick move while I'm drinking.